So after that chapter black bullshit on Yu Hakusho, I was very unwilling to actually go back and finish this series. Up till chapter black, I genuinely wondered whether Yu Hakusho was going to end up being my favorite anime ever. Because up to that point, I was really invested with what was going on. I was really invested in these characters. These fights were great. Like everything, like there was a unique arc every plot line was like completely fresh and new and like shed new light on like the world and just what was going on, and it was just really interesting. And the characters, man, the characters are like probably one of my favorite anime casts ever because they're just so likable and so stylish, man, fun to watch for the first 60 episodes. And then the Dark Tournament ends. Now, the Dark Tournament is often considered the highlight of this series, and for very good reason. It's an amazing tournament arc in general. Like, I have issues with it, like specifically the ending, but all in all, it was a pretty solid, it was a very, very well done arc. Really enjoyed it up until the ending. And then Chapter Black started, and I made a 45-minute video bitching about how much I hated that fucking arc. Everything about it was terrible. One of the worst anime arcs I've ever seen in my life. Like, I hated everything about it. The animation, the new characters, the new powers, just the evil plan. It just the villain, like everything did not hold up to any sort of scrutiny at all. It was terrible, a complete mess. And hearing fans describe the Three Kings arc, which comes after this and ends this series, as being way worse. In fact, a lot of people tend to praise Chapter Black for whatever reason. I was really anxious that like this thing was going to ruin Yu Hakusho the way that the Sasuke retrieval arc ruined Naruto. Well, I don't know. Like I would say Naruto was ruined. I don't know. I always had this impression that like Naruto would eventually get better, but then it never did, which I don't know. It's kind of hard to like pin down when it got bad. Because like when I think back to it, like I had issues with that fucking series as early as like as early as like Orochimaru's first appearance, like the before the tuning exams even started, because like the animation took like a serious downgrade. I hated that shit. Um, with Yu Yu Hakusho, I was like having the same doubts about Three Kings. Like, is this arc going to ruin this series and its characters for me? I am surprised because watching Three Kings is like I don't like it as much as early Yu Yu Hakusho, but I don't hate it either. Quite the contrary, I'm actually quite satisfied with it, like the way it ended and how it resolved and everything about it. Like the only thing bad I can say about Three Kings is that it was very, very obviously rushed. They had all these characters, all this build up, all these ideas that never really went anywhere. But unlike Chapter Black, where like it just pisses you off with all of its bullshit, it kind of works in spite of itself. Like, sure, you don't see a lot of the fights in the tournament, and sure, like a lot of them aren't, pretty much all of them aren't nearly as interesting as what you see in the Dark Tournament, but all in all, man, like all in all, I really enjoyed what we got in general. Like, sure, there was like some stupid moments, like Kurama's final fight in general, just really, really strange. Because Kurama was my favorite character throughout all of this. Surprisingly, I loved Kurama, my favorite character. His fight with Shigure. Well, for one thing, I thought Shigure was fucking dead. I thought Hiei killed his ass, but apparently not. He came back, fought Kurama, lost. And it was just like, here's the thing about Three Kings that kind of bothers me. Is that the plot lines for like each of the characters, they don't really make a whole lot of sense. Like they're all going through these like issues, but it's just like it's the sort of thing that's like brought up in one episode and then never really acknowledged again. Like Hiei and his issues with like, ooh, I don't belong with anyone, and like Kurama and his just like his identity issues or whatever. Yusuke and his like weird 5 minute spiel, 3.5 minute spiel about how he doesn't know what he's fighting for. It just doesn't really go anywhere. It's annoying. It's not really well done at all, but I don't know, man. Like it's over so quickly. It's kind of hard to care the way that like Chapter Black tended to drag on with its bullshit. Like sure it wasn't well sure there were issues with Three Kings, but all in all, like when it ended, I was like, you know what? I really, really enjoyed myself. I really enjoyed seeing how it resolved and just everything about it. It just sort of works in spite of its issues. And I had my problems with early Yu Yu Hakusho as well. Like, um, let's see, there has always been like these ass pulling moments in Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, uh, in general, it just feels like this this writer Tagashi, he really really cannot resolve certain things. Like he always has to come up with some like bullshit solution to everything, and that kind of shows in Three Kings a lot. In general, like I don't know, man. Yomi goes through so many plans and so many ideas, only to like toss them aside. It's like I don't know, like you're supposed to take him seriously as a villain. Like Ryzen starts hyping him up as the villain, but by the end, it doesn't really feel that way, you know? Like they just sort of fight and nobody wins, and that's fine. That turns out fine. It's just I don't know, man. It just sort of works. Like in spite of its problems, the ending it works. I was just like sitting there watching this final episode, and I was just like seeing like Kurama and Kuwabara just sitting on the bus, like the bus stop, like talking like about what's going on and stuff like that. I was just like, wow, this really is the end. Like unbelievable. It got me like really emotional and just all around, you know, great anime. Like in spite of its problems in the second half, and there are problems, believe me, you know, I really love this anime. I really do. I really do love the characters. I really do love the action. I love like the setting, the premise, everything about it really other than Chapter Black, which I think I'm just gonna ignore from here on out. Just all around, you know what? It works. Not my favorite anime. Again, I I think I've said this before, but my favorite anime is probably Ghost Stories. The original English dub. Thank you very much. I love Ghost Stories. I like it, but again, like I'm not sure why it's so overhyped by the anime community because I've seen so many people like come forward and like describe it as one of their favorite animes ever, and I don't really feel that way about Yu Yu Hakusho. Like, sure, I love it, but it kind of just comes a little short for me. It really does. Like, I don't know, like the best ever. This really. uh, Too many issues with the plot, like too many issues with like I don't know. Chapter Black takes up way too much of its runtime to like really completely ignore, you know. And then that sort of leads into Three Kings, and that's a major reasons why Three Kings has so many issues as it does. That it came off the heels of like the bullshit that was Chapter Black. So in general, let's see. Final thoughts on the series in general. I wanted to talk about that too. I don't know, man. Like, why? I wanted to talk about Hiei specifically, Kuwabara. Like, for characters who are supposed to be protagonists and like, you know, be there, you know, fighting alongside Yusuke and Kurama, they're not there very much. Like, I didn't realize this when I was younger, or like when I first watched this, because again, I did not watch this like all the way through when I was younger. Sad to say, um, when I was watching this all the way through for the first time, I was really surprised at how much Hiei doesn't really do anything throughout this. Both Hiei and Kuwabara don't really do much of anything throughout this. Like Kuwabara's one big moment was when he beat Elder Toguro, which was kind of rendered moot by the fact that like he comes back like later completely unhurt, only to be like completely raped by Kurama in like 5 seconds. Just really lame cop out. Like they tried redeeming him in Chapter Black and like tried giving him like his cool moment to shine, but sadly it didn't really work because it was Chapter Black. It was probably one of the highlights of Chapter Black. They tried to make Kuwabara like useful. I don't know. He's easily my least favorite character, mostly because of the way he treats Yukina, which I find creepy as fuck, especially in the ending when she still looks like she's like 8, and like he's still like really. I don't like the way he treats women. Okay, it bothers me to no end. Unbelievable, really obnoxious. I hate that sort of person. I really do. Kuwabara, I don't know. Like even though I have issues with that character. Like I still like him just fine. It just I don't know. I wish he did more in the plot. Like, I wish he had more powers. Like, Chapter Black made this big deal about, like, who your powers are expanding. And then, like, and he never really did anything. Like, he got kidnapped, like, fought Sunzui, lost for some reason. Ugh, Sunzui should never have been a threat. Wasn't even there for Three Kings because of that, how that turned out. In general, it just felt like, Kuwabara wasted potential. Hiei, I don't really understand what Hiei's deal was. Because here's the thing about Hiei. Like, sure, he has a moment. Sure, he does, like, lots of cool things, especially in the Dark Tournament where he has, like, lots of great wins. I don't think he loses a single fight in the Dark Tournament. Amazing fighter. One of those, he's obviously supposed to be like the Vegeta character, right? Like, he's really edgy and emo and stuff like that. Well, why am I calling him emo? Like, aggressive and things like that. Like, warrior guy, that sort of person. For a character like that, he has surprisingly little role in the plot itself. Like, sure, he's like, wants to be there for Yukina, even though he doesn't want to admit it, and that kind of, I don't know, like, when we got Hiei's backstory in Three Kings, like, where we get a proper explanation as to where he came from, I was just like, and like how he thought of like everything that happened up to this point, I was just like, none of this actually makes any sense. Well, aside from the explanation as to why he lost to Yusuke to begin with, because that always bothered me. Like, early on, where like he beat the Saint Beast despite losing to an untrained Yusuke, like early in the series. Like, how did that happen? Turns out that Jagan, although it will make you stronger eventually, makes you weaker at first. So he was still like getting used to it, and like that's why he gets way stronger as the series goes on. His backstory and his motivations make absolutely no sense in general, because he just keeps doing this weird, he keeps being a dick for no real reason. So take Chapter Black, which is probably the best example of this, where he basically has to be forced. At this point, I had the impression that Hiei and the others were actual genuine friends because of the Dark Tournament and how they like fought there together and stuff like that. And that took like 30 episodes or whatever, however long it took. Like, an amazingly long arc. Lots of character bombing there. Like, they hung out in the room together and like played cards. I don't think Hiei did anything. Yukina was there. He probably did something. Hiei refused to help in Chapter Black initially for no real reason. Like, when Genkai starts explaining like how Sakyo built this tunnel. Again, I have issues with Sakyo too. How he built this tunnel to like Demon World, and how demons are gonna start invading. Hiei's just like, fuck it, whatever. I don't care. I'm out of here. Then he fucks off for like 20 episodes or so. He comes back for no reason, beats this guy who was giving Yusuke trouble, and then he and Yusuke fight. And that's one of the highlights of Chapter Black. That fight's actually pretty cool, but I don't know, like the motivations behind it make no sense. Hiei just sort of did it because he did it, I guess. It just doesn't make any sense at all. All around really annoying. I don't know. He didn't feel like he does anything in Three Kings either. Like, sure, he's fighting. Sure, he goes up against Mikuro and does a pretty good job. Like, he breaks her shackles, which for some reason she did not break herself, despite being one of the strongest people in Demon World. Like, he breaks her shackles, whatever. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, Mikuro keeps talking to him about, like, ooh, you don't know what you want in your life. And he's just like, yes, I can. And it's just like, I don't know. It just doesn't really go anywhere or make any sense, or just, I don't know. Like, that character's presence in that arc kind of feels pointless in general. Like, I don't like Mikuro as a character at all. In fact, out of the Three Kings, she's probably the least interesting and the least fleshed out. I don't know why any of these. I don't know, man. Just Ryzen, why did he die? Like, couldn't he have done something interesting before he died? It's just like, why does this character exist? Like, I'll forever know him as the guy who somehow possessed Yusuke, beat Senzui, who really by that point should have been beaten already, and just, I don't know, just died. And just, I don't know. In general, this series, the Three Kings arc, in general, had this problem where they introduced all these characters who didn't really do anything, you know? Like, you had all of Ryzen's old friends. Some of them had names, some of them didn't. Like, you had that really big guy with, like, that. I want to call him, like, the king of the cucks, but I don't know. It's not like his wife is actually sleeping with Ryzen, so I can't really say that. His wife, the one who's just like, yeah, his wife, the one who's just like, I've been drinking ever since Ryzen broke up with me. Just hilarious when she said that. And you don't really see her again after that. Like, you see her fighting once, but you don't even see her again, even after her husband wins the fucking tournament. Just, why is she not there? Like, what happened to her? She just sort of stops. Natsumi, she beats Chu. Like, this is hyped up to be a big deal, but she doesn't really do anything. Chu falls in love with her because it's Chu and he does that. But she's just like, she just brushes him off, and like, you don't really know anything about her, which is kind of a shame because those guys in particular like stuck out to me as like there being a lot more to them than what we saw. And in fact, from what little we saw, these characters seemed a lot more interesting than fucking Sensui, who got like 30 episodes of bullshit. 30 episodes, 30 episodes dedicated to his bullshit. Just I don't know, man. Like, Three Kings didn't really feel like it had a resolution. It really fucking didn't. Like, I'm told the manga didn't even end properly. They just sort of stopped making it, and they, I don't know. I haven't actually seen the ending to the manga. I don't know. I'm told the anime actually expanded on it significantly, but there's a lot of characters that don't really do anything, that have any sort of satisfactory conclusion. Like, Yomi just sort of, loses the tournament, and he's just like, oh, I've just decided to like not be an evil king anymore, and just leaves. And it actually kind of works, like, for Yomi, but I don't know. Like, a lot of these new characters didn't have proper resolutions. I'm happy to say that's not the true for the protagonists, though. The protagonists all have great resolutions. Again, Kuwabara talks with Kurama, and they hang out with like Shizuru. I don't know. For a character that isn't around very much, I'm very fond of Shizuru, and like Keiko too. Like, Keiko in particular, from the very beginning, is probably one of my favorite anime GFs ever, because she's just so likable, and she has like such great chemistry with Yusuke, and it's just like, you really feel like these characters care about each other, Like, very, very cute relationship. Very interesting seeing how it, like, ended. Very, very sweet. They all fuck around in the ocean. The end. Great use of the theme song. The end. Amazing ending. All around, fantastic. Again, not much else to say, man. I just really, really like this. Like, I like the way it ended. Like, Three Kings was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be, although it does have issues. And in general, I love this anime. Like, in spite of everything, I still love it, and that's the most important thing, I think.